began with the forging of the great screens. 3 were given to the Game Boys, original, wisest, and fairest of all Game Boys. 7 to the Game Boy Colors, great colors and craftsmen of the Nintendo holes. And 9 screens were gifted to the Game Boy Advances, who above all else desired power. For within these screens was bound the strength and the will to govern the display over each Game Boy. But they were all of them deceived, for another screen was made. In the land of Hordor, in the fires of Doutmoom, the Dark Lord forged in secret a master screen to control all others, and into this screen he poured all his brightness, his vibrance, and his will to dominate all Game Boy mods. One screen to rule them all. Welcome back to another Jumpy Jumbo video. Today, we are going to take a look at how to install a new IPS screen into your old Game Boy Advance SP and spend some time discussing the mistakes I made during my first screen mod that you are going to want to avoid when you mod yours. But before we get started, this video is going to dive straight into the installation of the screen mod. So if you have never opened up your Game Boy Advance SP, this is your first time, go check out my last video where I show you how to do so while avoiding the mistakes I made. Great. Now let's get started with our first IPS screen mod. This might be the coolest, most important mod that you can do to refurbish your Game Boy. I ordered my IPS screen from good old Amazon. I'll link it in the description below for you guys. The kit includes an insulating film, a brand new ribbon cable, a wire for soldering, and the precious new screen. You are not required to solder for this mod. However, if you are, you will be able to adjust the brightness level. Pretty cool. This may come in handy for certain occasions, but I will say the standard brightness setting is already set to a muy satisfying level. Not too intense and not too weak, just bright. Okay, moving on. So again, if you do not wish to solder, you don't have to, and you can ignore the soldering steps in this video. The first thing we are going to want to do is lay this insulating film on the back of the IPS screen. Line up the edge of the film to the edge of the metal plate to get an even fit. When you do this, you might get some air bubbles. As you can see, I have a lot. We can remove these by simply lifting the edge of the film, but one cannot simply lift the edge of the film. These edges can be frustrating to reset. Have some tweezers nearby or another tool to help. You do not have to have it perfect though, but it's nice to have the film applied the best it can be. Next, we are gonna do some soldering. For this build, I decided to solder the wire now, because I wanted to use the wire to help guide the ribbon cable through the slit located in the hinge of the Game Boy shell. Although, be careful not to add too much solder because you might get it stuck while trying to move it through that slit. You might have to resolder. After soldering, we can place our ribbon cable here, in the corner of the back of the screen. It is best to use some double-sided tape so that it stays in place. However, if you just have some Scotch tape, roll it up, do the old trick, old-fashioned way, it can work just as well. Maybe not just as well, might poke up a little, you have a little cushion. Squishy squish. Incoming, report, sound the alarm. Very tricky part ahead, pay close attention guys. Here we have to connect the screen to the ribbon cable. This piece right here needs to line up centered and pressed into its receiving end. Use caution, Jumbies. Be patient. Don't just slam it down. Make sure it lines up perfectly. No joke, perfectly. You might have to get up close and personal. Take a look at those teeth, see it go right in. If you do not hear that snap, then it did not click in. It's not gonna work. Moving on. Allow me to help you save yourself from a few scratches. We can reapply this film here on our screen to keep it safe as we finish this mod. This is where we can roll our ribbon cable one full rotation and through that slit located in the hinge of the Game Boy, just like we did in the last video. Remember to be patient with the ribbon cable. It is not trained like your good boy at home. So it's going to want to unravel often. It's pretty unruly. Once the cable is through, we can get the shell back on. Although, this is where you can possibly run into some trouble like me. My fellow Jumbies, I did not read the instructions for this part of the mod until later. But if I did, I wouldn't have been able to discover this workaround, which I'm gonna show you next. If you don't cut the left internal edge of the shell, the screen will not fit correctly, as you can see. But here's the workaround. Instead, angle the ribbon cable chipboard so that the shell can lay flat. That's it. Easy. So it's up to you guys whether the Jang Jumby method is viable or not for you. Regardless, always read those instructions. Probably, and by probably, I mean most definitely, you guys should do it the way they recommended in the instructions. Remove that internal edge for that proper screen fit. All right, guys, sound good? Now there's no need for the extra foam. We can put that to the side and grab our lid, lay it on top, and screw it in. Make sure to screw them all the way down though, because this time we are gonna put those pesky screw covers over them. Woohoo! All right, so for this build, we have some beautiful white ones. Check those out. So if you aren't soldering, go ahead, put your Game Boy back together as we did in my last video. But if you are soldering, pay attention to this last part. We're going to solder the other end of the red wire to Q12B on the motherboard. And just like that.
Easy, baby!
Now all my soldering jumbies can put their Game Boys back together. We did it, guys. Check it out. Look at that screen. It's beautiful. Wow. It looks so good. I can cry right now. All that patience and hard work paid off. This screen really makes a difference and really allows the colors to pop. It refreshes the Game Boy gaming experience, in my opinion, and honestly, it makes me want to play it right now. I 100% recommend this IPS kit and modding your GBA SP. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, give it a like, don't forget to comment, let me know what you guys are working on, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you next time.